Well, the Pistons are back home tonight against the Houston Rockets, so this is going to be a good test of where we're really sitting right now here in this season. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Pistons Daily, your go-to podcast for daily Detroit Pistons content, game recaps, Coach T's keys, and real conversations about what's working and what's not with your favorite team, the Detroit Pistons. I'm your host, Coach T, Tony Nash, aka Coach T. And if you love the Pistons like I do, you've come to the right place because that's what we do here on Pistons Daily. We talk Pistons, and we're our fan podcast, so that's what we do here. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're getting very close to 3,000, and we need your help. So hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, let everybody know that this podcast exists. Share it on all your Facebook groups, share it with your friends. Let's keep building this community to show our favorite team the support they deserve. So I wanted to take some time today. I know some other creators have done their mid-season letter grades, and I think that's really cool. I love watching that. And I wanted to talk about where I think the Pistons are from my perspective here mid-season. We are now officially halfway through the season, and I wanted to kind of share with you my thoughts about where I think we are, what's been good, what could be better. And I don't think there's really anything bad to report. I think had a season that have far exceeded all of our expectations and every NBA analyst expectations. The only ones that probably are not surprised are the players and the coaches themselves. I think they came into the season with really high expectations for themselves and really high hopes of where the season would go. So the first thing I want to do is look at our team by the numbers. So how do we rank against the rest of the NBA? Overall, first off, we are third in rebounds per game, which is incredible. We are first in steals per game, first in blocks per game, second in defensive rating. We are first in loose balls recovered. We are, of course, first place in the East, leading by 5.5 games. And we have the second best record in the NBA. So if you had told me that we had half of those things at the beginning of the season, I would have been absolutely thrilled. And I'm going to say I'm absolutely thrilled now. And I think it's easy for us to want more and want more. Man, if you go in the fan comments of some of these groups, it's never enough. The team can't do enough to make some people happy. And I will tell you, I'm just enjoying this. And I hope that I have a very analytical mind. I share with you guys here every day my thoughts of how we can get better and how we can improve. I'm very opinionated about Karis LeVert and some other things that I think we could do. I've talked about a lot of trade rumors. I've given my thoughts on certain players that I thought may help us, may not. And so I have no issue with fans, giving ideas of how the team can continue to get better. I think that's the goal. Everybody wants the team to get better, including the players, including the coaches, including the front office. Everybody wants that. But I think sometimes people get so critical of where the team is and they trade this guy, trade that guy, get rid of him, the coach of this. And I'm telling you, if you're not enjoying this as a Pistons fan, then I don't know where you've been, because it's been a long time since we've had a team like this to root for. So I'm allowing myself to really enjoy this experience. And it's made doing this podcast really fun because there are so many positives about our team. And can we point out the negatives? Yes, there's always going to be negatives. But I think having coached for 10 years, I remember when I was younger, when in the 04 days and the 05, when the Pistons were good, I remember how bad a loss would hit me. I was probably in my mid-20s, and when we would lose one game, the mid-season, I would just be a mess for a day. And I think having coached for 10 plus years and, maybe maturing a little bit and really understanding the game and the ebb and flow of it and how players are going to have good nights and bad nights, and I think I just understand losing more. And there's a reason why teams don't go undefeated in the NBA. So to have 10 losses here midway through the season is absolutely incredible. And I think we should be really grateful for it as fans, and we should applaud our team for it. And so Coach T says the team is doing great. And so what I thought I would do, instead of, I think a lot of people give the team and the players a letter grade, like when you're in school, a report card, a mid-season report card, an A minus, B plus, etc., whatever. And I think that's cool. I love watching those. And some of the other creators that have done that, I've really enjoyed. I've watched them all, and I think they've done a good job with it. And so I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to give you, first off, my overall team rating, so how the team has done, defense, offense, and et cetera, rebounding, all those things. Give you but I want to do it and then I want to rate the starting lineup. I'm not going to do all the players today. Maybe we'll get to that next week. But for right now, I want to give you my overall rating, team, and then starters. And I'm going to do it like Dave Portnoy pizza review style, where I'm going to give a number between 1 and 10. Obviously, 1 being terrible, 10 being perfect, and nobody's perfect, so we're not giving out any 10s today. And I would say anything above 8.5, anything above 8 on Dave Portnoy's pizza scale is phenomenal. I would say today anything above 8 or 8.5 is really good on my scale as well. There has to be room for improvement, right? And although this team has done some really good things, I think there are still areas to grow. And so let's just talk about those. So the first thing I want to do is give my overall team rating. So how does the team look? And first of all, I'm going to go with overall defense. So our defense, I'm going to give it a 9.2. And I think we're the number 2 defense in the NBA in our defensive rating at 109.1, and it's getting better. As I said, the last 8 games, I said this on yesterday's episode, the last 8 games have been elite. So that number is going to keep going up. And I will tell you this, we are closer to the Thunder in defensive rating than any other team in the NBA is close to us. So 1 and 2 are, really killing it. The rest of the league is not quite there. But the Pistons are still 4 or 5 points behind the Thunder, but we're gaining on them. But the distance between us and the Thunder compared to the next best team and us is great. And then, we have, an elite defensive profile, consistent effort. We just have kind of a you don't get easy points mentality. We really, almost every night, and we've had nights where we've taken it off, and I thought really a couple weeks ago there we went through a streak where our defense wasn't great. And I think something has clicked again. The team, maybe got a little complacent, but it seems to be back, and the defense has been great. And we're winning like a top contender. Defense is stable night to night. I used to tell my players, I still tell the players, defense is 2% skill and 98% effort. And I don't coach effort. And in the NBA, I think if I was an NBA coach, I would have to coach effort because so many guys just don't give effort, especially on the defensive end of the ball. And I think you're not an elite player if you don't play defense. That's just my opinion. You could score 30 points a night, but if you can't play D, then you're not an elite player. And I know a lot of people would disagree with that because of players like Luka. But Luka's a phenomenal talent, but his lack of defense, I think, has really, in my opinion, it limits him and his ability to affect winning. And so I think the other thing is, defense, you don't have to have an off night. With offense, there's going to be nights where your shot's going in and nights where it's not. And that's just the facts. Doesn't matter how many reps you put up. Doesn't matter how good of a shooter you are. Sometimes Steph Curry can't hit a shot. And so that's going to happen, but you always can fall back on defense. And what we've seen over the last probably 2 weeks is our offense hasn't been stellar overall, but our defense has been so good that we're still winning games. So overall defense, I'm going to give it a 9.2. And then overall offense, I'm going to give us an 8.7, which that might surprise to me. That might seem like a little bit high, but we're sitting at the top 5 in offensive rating, where I think we're around number 4 in the league. So that's pretty legit. Our overall net rating is in the top 2 in offensive net rating, which says, our offense isn't empty calories. We have different guys stepping up every night, which makes us very hard to guard. And we can win different ways. We can win in the half court. We can win with pace. We win in the late game with clutch buckets. And that, to me, is what travels. And although we have moments where we might have just a terrible quarter, we're playing really well in the half court. We're playing really well in transition. And when it comes time to close, we're closing games. And so to me, that brings our offensive rating up because, we're not putting up 130 points a night, but we're finding ways to win and we're playing offense the right way with each other. And every night, someone else is going to be the guy. And, Cade is the most consistent, obviously averaging 26 points a game. He's going to be there almost every night, but then someone else is going to be the guy that steps up on any given night. And then I wanted to give our starting lineup an overall rating. So, 1 through 5. I'm going to talk about the players here in a minute, but our starting lineup as a whole, I'm going to give them an 8.8 out of 10. So that would be JD, Cade, Tobias, Asar, and Duncan Robinson. That's been our most consistent starting lineup. When those guys are all healthy, that's our starters. And I'm going to give them an overall 8.8 because their overall net rating is number 2 in the league. And it's usually the starters are doing the heavy lifting on that. You do see a drop off especially when Cade's not on the floor, but when the second unit comes in, even though we have some great second unit guys. I think the biggest issue with our second unit is a lack of consistency of rotations. And so some guys might play no minutes one night and then 15 minutes the next night, or 25 minutes one night and then 6 minutes the next night because of our depth. And I think that has made it a little bit more challenging on consistency with our second unit. But with the key guys in the mix, the team is still a +7-6. We're starting with our starting minutes. There are winning minutes. When our starters are on the court, we are outscoring the other team. And so I think, I have said over and over, I would love to see Stu work his way into the lineup over Tobias and let Tobias really kind of be the lead in that second unit. I don't think that's going to happen this year. But Tobias has some really good moments the other night with his 25 points. And I'm no way hating on Tobias. I just think the combination of Stu and Duren is elite, especially defensively, and I would like to see more of it. And then I also, at one point, was like Jaden Ivey should replace, at some point, Duncan Robinson in the starting lineup, but I also don't think that's going to happen this year. I think Duncan Robinson, especially in the last 6 games, has really proven himself to be a solid player, and he's getting us points, and he's doing things for us that no one else on the team can, not just with his shooting, and his defense has really improved this year. So overall, I'm going to say this starting lineup has really a playoff recipe. They're rim pressure, they're real defenders, and I think I'm going to give them an 8.8. And then the second unit, how do I rate the second unit overall? I'm going to give them an 8.3. Our bench has been a +3.5 net rating, which is still in the top 5 in the league for bench as far as they go. That's a good bench. That's not a survive the minutes type bench, and that's why they're over an 8. But they're not just scoring; they're winning the bench stretches with defense. And some of those hustle guys that come in, like Ron Holland and Javonte Green and Paul Reed and Dennis Jenkins. And some of these guys, and even Jaden Ivey, his defense is getting better and better every night. Those are the hustle plays that are really sometimes turning momentum for us and giving our starters good rest. And I think going into the playoffs, I think our starters are going to be the most rested starting lineup in the NBA, other than people that have had injuries. And so I think that's huge and a big key to our bench. The one ding I have. Rotations and roles again have shifted a lot with injuries, and it really shows sometimes. I mean, you can see the lack of chemistry at times with that second unit, especially in my opinion when Karis LeVert and Jaden Ivey are on the court together. That's not a good combo. Neither one of those guys can run the offense, and so the offense gets very stagnant. I'll say it again, Dennis Jenkins should be the backup point guard. And if you do that, I think that completely changes. It doesn't matter who you throw in there with him. He can run the offense, just like Cade. You put anyone in there with Cade, and they're all going to play better. And I think Jenkins is a similar type of player. And so 8.3 for the second unit. And then the coaching. I'm going to give our coaching a 9 out of 10. And to me, a 9.2 out of 10, the same as the starting lineup. Again, when you're number 2 in that rating, playing consistent defense, that screams structure, that screams buy-in. And some of the Pistons sets are great. I mean, they run some great plays. And again, having so many different guys that can contribute makes it tough to guard. But what has been most impressive to me with JB Bickerstaff, obviously the turnaround last year, winning 3 times the amount of games as the year before, having a nice little playoff series there, and then this year being the number 1 team. Incredible turnaround. He has built culture. He has given the team an identity. The team listens to him. He's one of the few guys in the NBA that's coaching his players. You hear him yelling at guys. You hear him yelling out instructions. You see him benching a guy when he's not playing well. And so he's doing real coaching. And a lot of NBA coaches do not get that opportunity, but JB is. And so 9.2 for him. I think he's a phenomenal coach. There are other coaches that are better from a schematic standpoint, better schemes, although I think his coaching staff really helps him with that. And I'm not saying he's bad. He has some really good X's and O's, but I think his biggest value is he's a motivator, right? He's a buy-in guy. He's a culture guy. He has this team believing. And when you can get guys to buy in, especially to defense, that's something special at the professional level. And, obviously they've won with so many different lineups with, 3 and 4 starters out, and they still find ways to win, which that's usually where teams wobble. I mean, you see other teams when their star goes down. Look at the Nuggets without Jokic. Look at the Bucks without Giannis. Look at the Pacers without Halliburton. Look at the Knicks when they didn't have Brunson. I mean, the Celtics are doing great without you know who I'm trying to say. I don't know why his name is slipping my mind. Jason Tatum. Sheesh. But again, that's a great culture and good coach as well. And they have some other really good players too. So, I think the fact that they're winning with multiple guys is a big reflection of the coach. The adjustments feel real. They're closing groups, the matchup decisions. He's not married to the plan when it's not working. They had a game a week ago where he brought in Chaz Lanier just kind of out of the blue, and it was the right decision. And, he's made wrong decisions, but I think overall he knows his guys. He knows what they bring to the table. The two questions I have on JB that I think would maybe bump his score up a little bit from my perspective is I don't really understand the strategy with Jaden Ivey. It doesn't seem to me like he's building trust. He definitely doesn't trust Ivy, and I think Ivy senses that. But I don't know what the internal workings are, and I know Ivy's still recovering, but there are times where it's like I don't understand his minutes and his rotation. And then the big question mark for me is Karis LeVert. I think that's a blind spot for Coach JB. I think he loves Karis. He sees something that maybe I don't, or a lot of us don't see. But hey, at the end of the day, he's winning, and so that's all that matters. I think it could be better. But this is why I coach high school basketball at a private school, and this is why he coaches in the NBA, the #1 team in the East. So what does Coach T know? That's based on my observation and my experience. But great job, Coach JB. So those are my ratings for the team overall. And now I kind of want to move on to the starters. I'm going to rank each of them individually. And we're going to start with the captain, the man, Cade Cunningham. I'm going to give him a 9.5 out of 10. He is a superstar in the making, right? Averaging 26 points a game, 9.8 assists, and the way he makes his team better is really his best attribute. He's a very unselfish player, especially for a guy that's scoring 26 a night. He's really unselfish. His decision making is great, and he makes the guys around him better. Massive on-court impact. He is a plus 295 when Cade is on the court, and so that's insane. Even when his shot isn't falling, he's still controlling the game with creation. And the best part about him is he plays defense. And that's, to get your superstar to play defense at the level he does is incredible. So a 9.5 for Cade. And then Jalen Duren. I'm going to give Jalen Duren an 8.9. If we were just rating him on improvement from last year, it would be much higher. But overall, he's an 8.9, averaging almost 18 points a game, 11 rebounds, 63% from the field, bully ball efficiency. Huge improvement from last year. I think he's only 22 years old. He will be an elite center in this league, possibly the best center in this league. It's tough with some of these European guys like Jokic and Giannis because they can do so many different things. But I think JD is one of those classic NBA centers, and I think he's going to be dominant. I think he will be the starting center for Team USA in 2028. Perhaps Bam Adebayo will still do it, but I think I would take JD, especially you give another 3 years of development. It's going to be scary what JD can do. Strong impact. He's a plus 234 when he's in the game. So really a big man showing value. When he dominates the paint, Detroit's identity jumps a whole nother level. So my critiques of JD is, when we get in situations where a team is playing zone and packing the paint, he becomes kind of ineffective. And so, developing that mid-range a little bit more and being able to do some more things, which I think his mid-range has improved, but I think developing that more would give him opportunity. Obviously, we need to surround him with shooters so that we don't end up in zone so often. And then I also think there are times where he gets careless with the ball and the paint. He gets stripped a lot. So even though his handles are great for a big man, he's got to learn how to really protect that ball more in the paint. But 8.9 for Jalen Duren. And then Asar Thompson, again, coming into the season, I thought he was going to be the player that had the most improvement, the most upside. And although there's been a lot of improvements, I'm going to give him an 8.2. And it's mostly because his defensive his defensive playmaking. It really pops. 1.6 steals per game, almost a block a game. He's just everywhere, though. He does so many intangible things. I know a lot of people criticize that he can't shoot and he doesn't score a lot, but man, if you're watching what he does to impact every single play, especially on the defensive end, and his hustle and his ability to change speed so quickly, it's phenomenal. And so I'm going to give him an 8.2. His rebounding helps, his energy, his help defense. He's just one of those guys that makes winning plays. And so I'm big on Asar. I still think there's a high ceiling for him. If he could get a jump shot, it's going to be dangerous, right? And so, whoever's working with him, if I would get him in the gym and really developing, a mid-range at least, and then some free throw shooting, and look out, he is going to be an elite player in this league. We see that a lot from his brother. He's a little more offensive. They're both defensive phenoms, but I think offensively he could improve. So his limiter, obviously his efficiency is fine, but the 3-point and the shooting and the free throw numbers keep him from the 9 territory. He really struggles sometimes to contribute offensively, and he is one of those players that makes it easy for a team to play zone. And zone in the NBA with the length and the speed of these players is really tough to beat, especially when you don't have outside shooting. And so 8.2 for Asar. Tobias, I'm going to give Tobias a 7.9. He's classic, steady vet, averaging 13.7 points per game. His efficiency, his true shooting percentage is 57%. He doesn't really hijack possessions. He's pretty smart with the ball. Sometimes he takes shots that I would rather him not, but he's been in the league for a long time. He gives you reliable minutes. He helps you stabilize the floor. He brings a veteran presence. He seems calm in those big moments, but he's not a carry guy. Like, he's not going to carry the team. He's great on a team that's not his job. And I've said this before. Do I think a championship team has Tobias Harris as their stretch 4 starting? I don't think so. That's why I think, and maybe this happens next year. I don't see it happening this year, but that's again why I think Stu has to become that stretch 4. I think the starting lineup again of JD and Stu is elite defensively, and Stu is shooting the 3 at about 36%, which Steph Curry's only shooting 39% this year, and so I'm not obviously his volume is much higher, but Stu continues to develop that shot and could become very much a Rasheed Wallace type player if he could develop a little post move like Tobias has. He's great in the paint, relatively consistent from 3. But anyways, this is supposed to be about Tobias. So 7.9 for Tobias. I hope that Tobias can retire a Piston, but I hope that he would be willing to take less money and take a bench role. And if he's not, then we probably got to replace him because he's up there, 15 years in the league, $26 million salary, and so 7.9 for Tobias. And then last but not least, Duncan Robinson. I'm going to give Duncan Robinson an 8.4. Shooting almost 41% from 3. It's his spacing that changes the geometry on the court. It opens up things for Cade. It opens up things for JD. It opens up things for everybody. And you will not see teams playing zone against us when Duncan Robinson is on the court. He makes it too hard because of his elite shooting and the way he moves. When he's popping, it's not just points. It's really how open the paint becomes, right? And the amount of movement that he has, again, it reminds me of Rip. and a guy like Reggie Miller. And of course, these guys are faster, but you just don't see Duncan Robinson standing around, and that draws a lot of attention. And then I think his gravity really is the best value because he's not a player that you can just leave in the corner. You can't really help off him. You have to keep an eye on him. So especially late in games when, teams load up on, Cade or, JD, it's good to have a guy that spreads things out and opens some things up for us. So those are my overall ratings of the players and the team. I want to hear from you guys. Like, do you think, tell me what ones you agree with, what ones you disagree. Tell me why. Don't just come in the comments and say, what do you know? You don't know what you're talking about. You shouldn't have a podcast. I mean, you're welcome to say all those things, but I want to hear facts. Tell me why you disagree with my rating, or tell me why you agree. But that's where I think we're at mid-season, and I think there's a lot. The sky's the limit. The ceiling is only up from here. And then I want to end the podcast episode today with Coach T's keys for tonight's game against Houston. I'm going to be in attendance. And, this is going to be a dynamic matchup. The Pistons sitting at 32-10, one of the best teams in the NBA this season, obviously. We're riding some strong defense, some strong offense. The Rockets are 26-15, so that's not a bad record either. Solid Western Conference squad. A lot of people have put them, as one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the West. Obviously, they have some big names on their team. They've had some injury wrinkles. Right now, Steven Adams is out with an ankle, so that, to me, is going to weaken their interior rebounding and their physicality. Also, Cade and Karras are still both game-time decisions, so that could shift the rotation and offensive rhythm. To me, I'm hoping that Karras isn't in the game. I don't wish that he's ill. I don't wish that he's injured. I just don't want to see him on the court against Houston. I really hope we have Cade. We really need Cade. And obviously, I don't think he's going to be 100% either way, but hopefully we can have him and get a classic Cade performance. Detroit's been rolling. We've been 8-2 in our last 10. Houston's been up and down 5-5 in their last 10. And so that consistency gap matters in a tight game like this. So we're going to have to come in and really do what we do defensively. And ESPN's analytics, they favor Detroit 52.2% to win. So it's going to be a competitive game on paper. So we'll see what happens. So I got 5 Coach T's keys for the Pistons to win tonight. Number 1, we have to contain the interior threat, and that being Durant and Sengun. Those 2 guys score a lot in the interior, and so this is why I would love to see Stu start tonight, to have him and JD protecting the paint. We're not going to see it. Tobias will start. That's my prediction. We're not going to go away from that, and I'm not saying we just need to pull the rug out on Tobias, but in a game like this, I would love to see Stu and Duran in the game. Obviously, Houston's offense flows through KD. He's averaging 26 points a game. Sengun, with his rebounding and assisting, his scoring as well. We need to force Durant into some tough looks, make Sengun, we need to make him pass instead of getting in low in the post and scoring. So it's going to be a big night for JD, a big assignment. We're going to have to use our shot contesting and our length on the defensive end to help contain those guys. You're not going to stop those guys, but we need to contain them. Don't let them get out of control. Number 2, we got to dominate the glass, especially since Steven Adams is out. There's some opportunity there with him sidelined. That's their best offensive rebounder and their best paint presence. So we got to crash the boards on both ends. We have to be adamant about rebounding tonight. And then if we win the rebound battle, I think that it's going to help us control the pace, and it's going to limit the Rockets' possessions, which is going to be a key. Number 3, we have to force turnovers. Make the Rockets adjust. They have some good players, but their defense is known for forcing turnovers. But they give up assists and ball movement and easy looks when they get kind of hurried. So we need to push the ball pressure, disrupt their sets, and we got to create transition scoring chances. Quick hands, aggressive closeouts, those are going to be the things that really create extra trips for us and get us more shots than them. So we got to force some turnovers. Number 4, we got to have balanced offense, right? It can't be a one-man show. If Cade or LeVert is out or limited, Detroit's offense has got to keep flowing through role playmakers. So guys like Tobias, Duncan are going to have to help us on offense. Obviously, JD and then we're going to have to attack mismatches early. So when we find those, when we see them, we're going to have to attack them. Can't let Houston's defense settle in. Obviously, we're going to see the other twin. He's a great defender. And obviously, I think if Cade is playing, he'll probably be guarding Cade. But we'll see what they decide there. And then we got to protect the home court energy, right? We have the sixth man with our crowd. They really get into it. We've been really strong at Little Caesars Arena this year. It's where we impose our pace. It's where we made a lot of our clutch plays. Our guys are comfortable there. So defense, smart late game decision making. We got to make our free throws. We got to take care of the ball. Those are going to be the things that are the difference in this game. And do some things to get the crowd into it. So my final thoughts here, we come in with momentum. We come in with elite defense. But if we play with intensity from the tip, we cannot wait on a team like this. If we dig a hole, it's going to be really hard to dig out of that hole. If we control the pace and the physicality, we should be okay, even against a great team. Obviously, Houston still has potent scorers, Durant, Sengun. They can turn anything. They can flip a possession, and they can really heat up quickly. But our depth, our rebound control really has to be the deciding factor in this game. So I would expect a really competitive first three quarters, but I expect us to pull away late, and I'm saying the Pistons are going to win this one by 5+. I want to keep Houston around 100 points like we have been these other teams, and I'm predicting another Pistons win tonight, which will be a great statement for us against a great team. You know, I'm not hearing it as much anymore. The Pistons have had an easy schedule or blah, blah, blah. The Pistons have beat some really good teams. We've already beaten Houston once. To sweep them in the series would be a good statement for us, and we'll just continue to propel our estimated value in the league. So that's all I got for today, guys. A little bit longer episode, but I wanted to break these things down for you. So let me know your thoughts about these ratings. I want to hear from you. I want to get some good feedback. And then let me know what your thoughts about my keys for the game tonight. And let's go Pistons. Let's get another big win. Remember, we're so close to 3,000 subscribers. We need you to subscribe to the channel. I see a lot of you in the comment section, and I appreciate it. But please subscribe. Share this channel. If you'd like to listen to a podcast, you can listen to it anywhere a podcast can be found. Leave us a 5-star review, and let's help build this community. Share it on Facebook. I post clips all the time on my TikTok and my Instagram at Real Tony Nash. So please share those clips, comment on those clips. Let's get to know each other more in the comment section, and let's go Pistons. So that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, and as always, Detroit basketball. Let's go, baby.